Ryan dropped a new contract on the table and smiled. "You are not part of this company anymore. Thanks for $20 million. My heart stopped. The wedding was only 2 days ago. Emily, my only daughter, had no idea what her husband had just done. I felt the room spin. I had trusted him. I thought I was securing Emily's future. Instead, I was being pushed out of it. Before I tell you how everything fell apart, make sure you subscribe and share where you are hearing this story from. Now, let me take you back to where it all started. I never expected my life to take such a turn at this age. I am David Miller, 60 years old. I spent more than 3 decades building a small business into something solid. I retired with pride. I saved for my future. I saved for my daughter's future. Emily is my only child. The one good thing that came out of my marriage with Linda. Even after the divorce, I promised myself one thing. Emily would never feel the impact of her parents' mistakes. I would be there for her. Always. Emily grew up fast. She was smart, ambitious, and determined to make her own way in life. She studied hard, built a good career, and carried herself with kindness. I was proud every single day. When she smiled, it felt like the world made sense. When she called, I answered on the first ring. She was not just my daughter. She was my purpose. Linda and I kept our distance after the divorce. There were no dramatic fights after the separation, just silence. She moved on, and I focused on raising Emily. Still, even with all the good things in my life, a fear always stayed with me. A fear that one day I might not be able to protect her. I tried not to think about it. I told myself everything was fine. Emily was grown now. She was strong. She could choose the right people to trust. Then, she met Ryan. I remember the day she introduced him to me. A tall young man, confident, polished shoes, expensive watch, but with a friendly smile that tried to soften all that ambition. He shook my hand with both of his, like he meant every word he said. He called me Sir first, then David, and soon after, Dad. I should have questioned how quickly that changed, but Emily looked happy, truly happy, and that was all it took for me to lower my guard. Ryan owned a tech company, or so he said. Fast-growing, innovative, investors lining up, offices in multiple cities. He talked about the future like he already owned it, and Emily believed in him. When he spoke to me, he always tied his dreams to hers. "We want to build a life, a family, something lasting," he said. And I listened. Maybe too closely. I told myself Ryan was driven. Young men with vision needed support, not suspicion. And as time passed, I allowed him into my world. He joined our dinners. He asked for advice. He praised my business success and said he wanted to learn from me. He made me feel valued, respected, like there was still purpose left in my life. Little by little, he earned my trust. I should have noticed the way his eyes lit up whenever money came up in conversation. I should have questioned his eagerness to impress me with numbers and projections, but I only saw how Emily leaned on his shoulder, how she looked at him as if he was her future. I did not want to be the man who crushed that. I kept telling myself, this is what a father does. He supports, he encourages, he steps aside so his child can build her own world. But sometimes, stepping aside means leaving them vulnerable. Looking back, there were small signs. Ryan was always busy, always traveling, always closing deals. When he talked, everything sounded too perfect. Success came too easy. But Emily believed him, and I believed in her. Maybe that was my biggest weakness. Because when a father loves his daughter more than life itself, he sees what he wants to see, not what is right in front of him. And that was how the door opened, how I let him in, how everything began. If only I had known where this path would lead, I might have held on tighter. Instead, I trusted him. And that trust would become the most painful mistake of my life. Ryan became a part of our lives faster than I expected. Months passed, and he was around for every birthday, every holiday, every quiet Sunday dinner. He talked about the tech world like he was changing it every day. Emily's eyes would shine as she listened, like she believed she was standing at the beginning of something extraordinary. And I I wanted to believe that too. One evening, Ryan invited me out for coffee. He said he wanted to talk man to man. We sat in a small cafe near the coast. He came prepared, a sleek folder under his arm, a spark in his eyes. He leaned forward and said he had a proposal that could change everything for our family. He began with numbers, market potential, growth projections, partnerships, offices expanding from California to Texas, then across the country. He spoke about a new product, a breakthrough he claimed would disrupt the industry. He said he was close to securing major investors but needed one final push, a partner he could trust. A partner like me. I remember my heart beating a little faster, not because of the money, but because of the way he said the word family. He said he wanted me to be part of something that would protect Emily for the rest of her life. He painted a picture where she would never worry about bills, never struggle, never know hardship. He asked me to invest $20 million. $20 million, the amount I had spent years earning and saving. My life's work in one number. I sat there, silent. It was not a decision to take lightly. But Ryan kept pushing gently, smiling with confidence, promising safety. He told me he already had smaller investors waiting, but none with experience like mine. He said I would not just be investing, I would be shaping the future. I asked him, "Why me? Why ask your future father-in-law?" He looked me straight in the eyes and said, "Because I trust you, and because you trust me. Emily deserves a future built by the people who love her most." Those words, they hit me where it hurt. He knew exactly how to speak to a father's heart. Still, I needed something more. Proof. So Ryan opened the folder. Inside, glossy documents, charts, images of office spaces. He showed me contracts signed by other supposed investors, articles mentioning the company, rankings, awards. It all looked real, too real to doubt. I went home that night thinking of one thing. Emily. Her future. Her happiness. I told myself that maybe my role as a father was not ending with her wedding. Maybe it was expanding. Maybe this was how I could still protect her, even as she built her own life. Days went by. I reviewed every page Ryan gave me. He brought in his team once, or people he said were his team. They spoke with confidence. They called me sir. They promised security. They promised success. Emily added the final push. She took my hand and said, "Dad, this would mean the world to us. We want you with us, in our family business. We want to build something together." She looked like her mother when she was young, full of hope. All the battles Linda and I had fought felt so distant in that moment. It felt like I was being offered a chance to rewrite the past, to give Emily a better story. So, I called my lawyer, Harper. I asked her to look over the contract. She did. She pointed out a few things. Risks, clauses that gave Ryan more control. But she also said it was not unusual for a founder to protect his vision. She told me that if I trusted him, the deal could be beneficial. Trust, that word again. In the end, I let my heart win over my head. I signed the initial agreement a week before the wedding. $20 million transferred. Just like that. My hands shook a little as I signed, but I convinced myself it was excitement. I told Ryan, "This is for Emily." He smiled wide, almost too wide, and hugged me like a son. And he said, "You will not regret this." Looking back, that sentence feels like a warning I refused to hear. As the wedding approached, Ryan became even more attentive. He thanked me often. He spoke about how proud Emily would be when the company went public one day, how she would brag about her father's courage. It felt good. Maybe I needed that too. The validation, the feeling that I still had a place in this new chapter of Emily's life. The wedding itself was beautiful. A quiet ceremony by the beach. Emily walked down the aisle in a flowing white dress, the sun setting behind her. The ocean calm. I cried, harder than I expected. I was giving her away, but also stepping into her future. Everyone laughed, danced, celebrated love. Ryan stood beside Emily making promises before God and everyone. Promises of honor, promises of protection, promises of forever. I believed every word. After the wedding, the company was all anyone could talk about. Ryan introduced me to guests as his business partner. I felt proud. I felt like I had done the right thing. But then, small things started to shift. I noticed Ryan avoiding discussions about access to financial records. He brushed off my questions with excuses, audits, confidential processes. Just until things settle, he said. I nodded. I tried to be patient. It was my daughter's honeymoon period. I did not want stress or arguments. I told myself everything was fine. Then one night, as I stood near the bar, I heard Ryan's voice. He was behind me, laughing with one of his friends. His tone was different, sharp, mocking. The old man actually thinks he gets profit. No way. He is just the wallet. My stomach tightened. My body froze. I turned slightly, just enough to see his expression. There was no respect in his eyes, no gratitude, just hunger. I wanted to confront him. I wanted to shout. But Emily came up beside him, her hand on his arm, her face glowing with happiness. And I could not break that smile. Not yet. I stayed quiet. I swallowed the fear. I convinced myself I misheard. Maybe it was a joke, a misunderstanding. I went home that night feeling uneasy, but still clinging to hope, because I loved my daughter, and I wanted to believe her husband loved her too. I told myself that the investment was secure, that Harper checked everything, that Ryan would never risk losing Emily's trust. But trust, misplaced, can be the most dangerous thing in the world. 2 days after the wedding, I would realize just how dangerous, and that was when everything fell apart. The morning after the wedding felt quiet, too quiet. Emily and Ryan were staying at a resort for a couple of days before flying out for their honeymoon. I told myself they deserved that peace. They deserved to enjoy their first days as husband and wife without any worry, but my thoughts did not rest. Ryan's words from the reception kept echoing in my mind, the tone, the arrogance. I tried to brush it off. I tried to convince myself that I was being emotional, overly protective, a father struggling to let go. Then, I received an email from Ryan. He wrote that he needed to meet immediately. It sounded urgent, business-related. He said it was about finalizing my position in the company. My heart tightened. This should have been done already. The agreement was signed. The money was moved. Why was there something else to finalize? Still, I drove to the company office address he had given me before. The building looked impressive from the outside. Glass panels, a large sign with his company name. But something felt wrong the moment I walked in. The lobby was too quiet. No receptionist, no employees moving around. Just a dimly lit space and a single door with a frosted window. Ryan was sitting inside, alone. He barely looked up when I entered. His expression was cold, distant. Nothing like the man who called me Dad a few days ago. He slid a folder across the table without saying a word. I opened it, and my chest tightened. It was a new contract. My name was gone. I asked him if there was a mistake. I could barely speak. My voice felt weak, trembling. He leaned back in his chair, crossed his arms, and said words that hit like a hammer to the heart. You are not part of the company anymore. Thanks for the $20 million. For a moment, the room disappeared. I could not breathe. I stared at him, waiting for a laugh. Some sign that this was a terrible joke. But he was serious. Dead serious. I stood up. I demanded an explanation. He smirked and said Emily had nothing to do with this, that she did not need to know the details of business. He called my investment a gift, something I offered out of love. He twisted my own intentions into something cheap. I slammed my fist on the table. Anger, fear, betrayal, all at once. I told him I would call the police. I told him he would not get away with this. But he looked at me like a man who had already won. Go ahead, he said. You signed everything. You trusted me. That was your decision. He was right, and that made it even worse. He stood and walked toward the door, brushing past me like I was nothing. He said one more thing before leaving. Emily will always choose me over you. Remember that. Those words cut deeper than the theft. I rushed out of the office, but by the time I reached the parking lot, Ryan was gone. I drove home shaking, my hands would not stay still. My mind raced with questions, fears, regrets. $20 million, just gone. My life savings, Emily's future, everything. I called Emily, again and again. No answer. I paced around my house, staring at my phone. When she finally called back, her voice was full of joy. She talked about the ocean view, breakfast in bed, how happy she was. I could not bring myself to crush that moment. I told her I loved her, and hung up. The silence that followed felt unbearable. The next day, Emily came home early. Ryan told her he had business emergencies. He did not come with her. She noticed immediately that something was wrong. She asked why my eyes were red, why my voice sounded heavy. I wanted to tell her everything. I opened my mouth. But then I saw her wedding ring, still shining like hope on her hand. I could not take that away from her. Not yet. Before I could decide anything, Ryan arrived at my door. He walked in boldly, put an arm around Emily, and said I was confused, emotional, trying to control her life again. He told her I wanted to own their future. He inverted the truth so easily, as if he had rehearsed it. Emily's smile faded. She looked at me, hurt in her eyes. She asked if I really tried to take control of their company. My heart cracked. I tried to explain. I told her Ryan had betrayed us both, but Ryan was faster with his lies. He played the victim. He said I forced him to accept the money. He said I was trying to buy a place in their marriage. He even pretended to wipe away a tear, convincing Emily that he was attacked. Not me. Emily stepped away from me. She said she loved me, but I needed to accept that she had a husband now. She begged me not to ruin her marriage. Ruin her marriage, I was trying to save her. Ryan pulled her close and said, "Let's go." They left together, leaving me alone in my own living room. I collapsed into my chair. I placed my hands over my face. I felt something I had not felt in many years. Helpless. The following days were worse. Ryan ignored my calls. The office number disconnected. Emails bounced back. Everything he showed me, everything he promised, was dust. I reached Harper, my lawyer. She rushed to my house and went through every document again. Her face changed gradually, confidence fading into shock. There were loopholes, hidden clauses, nothing illegal on paper, but everything immoral. I had signed away control. I had signed away protection. Ryan planned this from the beginning. The walls felt like they were closing in. $20 million, gone. Emily, drifting further from me. People who knew about the investment looked at me differently, like a fool, like a man tricked by his own emotions. I blamed myself more than anyone else. I thought I failed as a father. My responsibility was to protect my daughter, not hand her future to a con man. At night, I could not sleep. I sat alone in the dark, replaying every moment, every smile, every dad, every lie. I tried to figure out when exactly he stopped seeing me as a person and started seeing me as a bank. One thing was clear. Ryan did not just want the money. He wanted control. He wanted power. And he wanted Emily to believe that I was the enemy. And the worst part, he was winning. But I was not going to let that be the end of my story. Not yet. The betrayal was complete. The damage was real. But somewhere inside me, something else was waking up. A fight. A resolve. If Ryan wanted a battle, he was going to get one, because I may have been fooled once. But I was still Emily's father, and I would not lose her to a liar. I stopped counting the sleepless nights. The house felt colder, emptier. Every corner reminded me of Emily's childhood, the laughter, the moments when she believed her father could fix anything. Now, I was the one broken. Harper came over again. She laid more papers on my table, pointing at details I had missed. Hidden conditions, clever phrasing. I remembered signing them with trust, with pride, believing I was giving Emily a legacy. But Harper explained the truth slowly, carefully, like someone delivering bad news to a patient who might collapse. I had no authority in the company, no access, no legal ownership. Every cent was gone. With my signature at the bottom, I closed my eyes, and a long breath escaped my chest. It hurt to admit it. I walked into the trap willingly. I trusted Ryan too much. I trusted the image he created. Harper told me the company's physical address was rented only for show. The investors he claimed to have were either fake or unreachable. The financial reports had been polished, manufactured, one lie stacked on top of another, until it looked like truth. I asked her what we could do. Harper hesitated. She said we might have a chance if we could prove fraud, but the evidence was thin. Ryan had made sure of that. He planned everything, step by step, long before he even met Emily. That realization cut deep. Ryan did not fall in love with Emily. He targeted her. Through her, he targeted me. The next day I tried talking to Emily alone. We sat at her kitchen table. She looked tired, confused, torn between loyalty and fear. I told her the truth. I begged her to look at the documents. I asked her to hear me, not Ryan. But her heart was already tangled in his lies. She said I was angry because she was married now, that I could not accept another man in her life. I was speechless. That was Ryan's poison speaking through her. He had turned my love into something selfish, something ugly. I reached for her hand, but she pulled away. "I am your daughter," she said quietly. "Please don't make me choose." Choose? I never asked her to choose. But Ryan did. Ryan forced her into that corner. I drove home with tears burning behind my eyes. I kept my hands tight on the wheel just to keep them from shaking. The humiliation spread fast. People in my circle whispered. Some avoided eye contact. Others gave pitying smiles. The man who lost $20 million. The headlines practically wrote themselves in their eyes. At the grocery store, someone joked behind me, wondering how a smart businessman could fall for something so obvious. Their laughter echoed into the parking lot. I kept walking, pretending I did not hear. Every day reminded me of what I had lost. Not the money, not really. It was my relationship with Emily, the trust we had built over decades, slipping through my fingers like sand. I tried calling Ryan again and again. He blocked my number. He blocked Harper. He blocked every attempt to reach him. He was gone. The wedding photos still sat framed on my living room shelf, Ryan smiling, Emily glowing, me standing beside them with pride. I stared at those photos one evening, and anger surged so suddenly that I grabbed the picture frame and smashed it against the wall. Glass scattered across the floor, reflecting broken pieces of my hope. I sank to my knees. My chest tightened. I felt old, small, defeated. That night, Emily showed up at my door. Her eyes were nervous, searching the room, probably looking for signs of what Ryan told her. She asked if I really tried to sue them. She asked if I hated Ryan. She asked if I wanted to break her marriage. I told her no. I told her the only person I wanted to protect was her. But she would not listen. She said Ryan was building a future for them, that he was stressed, that I was making him feel unwelcome. It was like speaking to a stranger wearing my daughter's voice. I realized something then. Ryan did not steal my money. He stole my place in Emily's life. After she left, silence swallowed the house again. Harper called. She told me Ryan had emptied the business accounts. There was no trace of the funds, no company staff, no registered operations. It was all smoke, and I walked right into it. We sat there, facing the truth. Ryan planned to leave the country. The money would be gone forever. I leaned back in my chair, feeling like the world had fallen apart. Harper placed her hand on my shoulder and said, "We still have a chance, but you need to prepare yourself. This will not be easy." I nodded. But deep down, humiliation piled onto sorrow, and sorrow turned into something darker. A weight sat in my chest every time I looked at Emily's picture. I poured my heart into raising her, into being the father she deserved. Now she believed I was trying to destroy her happiness. I walked upstairs and sat in her old room. Her childhood posters, her trophies, memories from a life when I was her hero. I let myself feel the pain, the loneliness, the betrayal. Not just Ryan's betrayal, but Emily turning away from me because he told her to. I whispered into the empty room. I still love you. More than anything. But love was not enough anymore. I was standing at the bottom, with everything I valued torn apart. My name, my dignity, my relationship with my daughter, crushed by a man who saw me as a stepping stone. Yet, beneath the hurt, something began to shift. Something that refused to die. I wiped my tears, straightened my back, and breathed deeply. I was not done. Ryan thought I would break. He thought I would give up. He thought I was weak. He forgot one thing. One very important thing. A father fights hardest when his child is in danger. And I was going to fight, not for the money, for Emily. Ryan had taken almost everything. Almost. But I still had the truth. And with Harper by my side, I would find proof. Expose him. Stop him. No matter what it cost me. I sat alone in the dark of my office long after everyone else had gone home. The building felt cold, too quiet, like failure had taken up residence in every corner. I stared at the copy of the contract Ryan used to trap me. His signature bold, proud, mine shaking, trusting. Emily's name nowhere to be found. My own daughter, erased from the company, meant to secure her future. A father should protect his child. I had failed. But I was not done. I reached for my drawer and pulled out a thick envelope I had kept for emergencies. Inside was every message, every email, every detail of conversations with Ryan. I kept them because something inside me whispered that he loved money more than my daughter, that he would twist anything to his advantage. And now, I needed proof. I plugged in my old laptop and started compiling everything. Dates, numbers, promises he made, threats he slipped into casual conversations. The night grew deeper, but I kept working, fueled by anger and shame. By dawn, I had a plan. The next morning, I walked into my lawyer's office. Mr. Peterson had been with my family for years. He knew Emily since she was a little girl with ponytails and scraped knees. He listened without interrupting as I explained everything. When I finished, he leaned back in his chair and exhaled slowly. "You signed willingly," he said. "That makes it hard." "I signed under false trust," I answered. He lied to my face. "Morally, absolutely," he said. "Legally, we need something more concrete. Something that proves he manipulated you." I slid the laptop forward. "I think this might help." He read silently for a long time. His eyebrows narrowed. His lips pressed together. Finally, he closed the screen gently. "This," he said, "is a start. We can use this." Hope flickered inside me. "What do we do now?" I asked. "We investigate. Quietly. And if we find even one illegal move, he will regret ever messing with you." I nodded, my hands clenched into fists. For Emily, for my wife, for every sacrifice I ever made. I went home that evening and sat in the living room. The fireplace crackled, filling the silence with soft popping sounds. My wife Evelyn sat beside me, placing her hand gently over mine. "You look like a man ready for war," she said softly. "I am." She gave a sad smile. "Emily will be crushed if she learns the truth. She will be crushed later if we do nothing now." Evelyn leaned her head on my shoulder. "Just promise you won't destroy her along the way." That promise weighed heavily, but I nodded. "I will protect her, even if she hates me for it." The next week, Emily and Ryan returned from their honeymoon. I stood waiting at the airport. Emily rushed into my arms, eyes shining with happiness. "Dad, I missed you." I held her tight, too tight, because I knew the world she believed in was a lie. Ryan walked up with that same confident smile, the smile of a winner. "Good to see you again, sir." "Sir." All respect gone, just formality. I stared into his eyes and saw the truth I had ignored. The hunger, the coldness. "Welcome home," I replied calmly. "We need to talk." His smile twitched. For the first time, he looked nervous. "Good." 2 days later, we sat around the dining table. Emily poured wine, chatting about honeymoon memories. I listened, nodding, pretending nothing was wrong. Evelyn watched me, her hands tight around her glass. Finally, Emily paused and looked at me. "Dad, what's going on? You're different." I set my glass down. My voice was steady. I talked to Mr. Peterson while you were away. Ryan froze. I know what you did, I continued quietly. And now, you and I are going to fix it. Emily glanced at her husband confused. Fix what? Ryan put on his charming voice. He's misunderstanding. No, I cut him off. I am done misunderstanding. The room went still. Emily's face turned pale. Dad, what are you talking about? Ryan slid his arm around her shoulders. Honey, your dad is stressed. He's been through a lot. He thought he could still manipulate the situation. Not anymore. I stood, walked to my desk drawer, and returned with a folder. I placed it in front of Emily. Read. She opened it slowly. Pages of emails. Messages. His words. His plans. His betrayal. Her hand started to shake. Ryan, she whispered. He swallowed. Hard. It's taken out of context, he muttered. Your dad is trying to break us apart. Emily turned to me, tears forming. Why? Why would you show me this? To give you the truth, I said. My heart hurt with every word. I invested $20 million. Not for him. For you. Emily looked back down at the folder, tears falling onto the paper. Ryan stood abruptly. We are leaving. Emily, grab your things. He tried pulling her arm. She didn't move. She stared at him like she had never seen him before. You used me, she whispered. He tried again. Emily. She ripped her hand away. Did you ever love me at all? Silence. His silence was the answer. Her body sank into the chair, sobbing softly. Evelyn rushed to hold her. I stared at Ryan. You have two choices, I said, stepping closer. You walk away clean, or you fight. And if you fight, I promise you will lose more than just money. His jaw clenched. Anger replaced fear. This isn't over, he said. I leaned forward. It is. That night Emily slept in her childhood bedroom. Evelyn stayed with her, rubbing her back like she did when she was small. I stood in the hallway watching. The innocence of her pain broke me. But at least now, she knew. The truth was ugly, but necessary. I walked back to my office, closed the door, and sat heavily in the chair. The battle was only beginning. There would be legal storms, threats, emotional wounds that may never fully heal. But I had taken the first step. Ryan thought he had buried me. He didn't know. Fathers rise from the deepest graves when their children are threatened. I looked at the folder again and whispered to myself, this time, I fight. Thank you for staying with me through this story. It was not easy to relive. But sometimes the hardest truths are the ones we must speak aloud. If you were in my place, watching your child walk into a storm, would you still spend everything you had to pull them out, even when they pushed you away? I would love to hear your thoughts, your experiences, in the comments below. And if this story touched you, even just a little, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share where you are listening from. More true stories are coming soon. Stories about family, trust, loss, and the strength it takes to stand back up. Thank you for listening. Thank you for your time, and take care of the ones you love before someone else takes advantage of it.